Today, we're gonna go over what's required to properly test your meta ad campaign in 2026. I'm going to share with you a proven blueprint that you can use to actually test your campaign and actually know how to do it in a way that's easy, that's fast, that's sustainable. Because let's be honest, if you are running ads on Meta, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, your ability to test properly and to know how to make decision based on the result of your testing approach is literally going to be the biggest thing that can make or break your ability to scale profitably. So I've made an episode in the past where I talk about how to test, but things have changed so much over the past couple of months when it comes to Facebook ads and how to run ads profitably, especially now with the Meta Andromeda updates. It's even more important for you to be clear on how to make it happen. So I am Joly Tematio. If it's the first time you come across my content, I run Drogon Consulting. We are an ad agency, and over the past 5 years, we've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, founder, coaches, consultant, expert, course creator as well, helping them scale their company to multiple 7 figure or 8 figure. We are behind one of the biggest launches, helping our client make $500,000 a month, 6 figure a day, using some of these proven, principle. And the scaling season on this platform is really an opportunity for me to share with you what we see work in real time behind the scenes, so you can, use this information and go ahead and, improve your strategy, your scaling strategy the best way that you possibly can. And testing again is one of the biggest things that you want to do. So if you're in a season where your account looks like a mess with like 70 campaign and you're like, oh my God, what's going on in here? Or you just feel like you need to control every single variable. You feel like there's so many things to test that you get sometimes overwhelmed when you look at the numbers and you're like, okay, what's going on? What do we prioritize? Where's the bottleneck? I'm really going to simplify things for you because you can actually scale your ad spend to 5 figure, multiple 6 figure even a month by having a simplified account structure. When we work with clients, we help them, scale to 700K or $500,000 in a month. We do so without the ad account looking like a mess. And so I'm going to share with you how it looks like. And I have my notes because I want to make sure that I'm straight to the point in this episode. Now, the first thing that I want you to realize is that there's an order of structuring your campaign. So if at the moment when you open your ad account, you have like 20 campaign, that's already a red flag that you are not structuring in the best way possible. So what you want to have inside is prioritizing what we call account consolidation, campaign consolidation. How that looks like having 3 campaigns. So we like to have one campaign for testing, one campaign when we are aggressively scaling and where we have all of our winner in terms of creatives and audiences, and we have one for all of our targeting, right? Depending on which type we are targeting, how we are targeting them. And I've made a video recently where I talk about how do you actually go about targeting in Meta in 2026. So highly invite you to go ahead and watch that one. So that's basically how we want to structure your ad account. Very simple, very like you only need 3 campaigns. And if you don't need, if your targeting segment is not even big enough, you can just start with 2 campaign. Or I mean, typically we start with one, the testing campaign, you scale based on what's winning. Once you've achieved stability in terms of your scaling, and by achieving stability, I mean you've gotten creatives that have performed really well over a couple of weeks. You've got audiences that are performing really well over a course of a couple of weeks. You can then move those into your scaling campaign, and then because you're then going to introduce new creatives into your testing campaign, because with the new updates, the Meta and Andromeda, creative diversity is key to get your account seen by the right audience. So, and when it comes to testing, we actually like to start with broad. So we start with one campaign, broad audience. Inside the campaign, we have so it's a CBO campaign, right? One ad set, which is a broad audience. Inside that I'd say we have different creative. We like to start with a combination of at least 5 video ads and 5 image ads. And we have a batch of 5 ad copy, each of those copy hitting a different marketing angle, and 5 headline. So we launch those. So it's like 10 variable, I mean 10 creatives, and then 5 ad copy and 5 headlines. And we let Facebook do the matching and really allow us to understand what's the best combination of headline, ad copy, angle, and creative. We like to start with a budget of $100 a day. You can choose what your baseline is. And when I say we have a broad audience when it comes to our targeting, what we like to include is actually the language that they speak, so the countries that we are targeting, and the genders. Of course, as well as the age group. Those are the only things that we input in terms of our targeting for the most part, yeah. And we optimize for whether that's call schedule or purchases, whatever the end event, the end goal is for our clients. And that's it. Basically, the idea here is when you launch a campaign on Facebook, the algorithm has become so smart that you don't want to force them to do anything. You just kind of want to let Facebook, based on the congruency between your messaging, your creative, and your funnel, you want to allow Facebook to actually show your ads to the best client possible. And they're going to show your ads to your best target audience based on what your goal. So if your goal, that's why we like to optimize for the event at the end of the funnel. So if you're going for purchase, we want to optimize for add to carts. We are going to optimize for purchases. If you want call schedule, we want optimize for application submitted or for leads. We optimize for the call schedule, right? So what are you actually trying to achieve? Because Facebook is going to show your ads to that audience specifically. Something which is very important here to have in mind is that budget is important, right? The more expensive the event or the more expensive your price point, you want to realize that you are going to have to spend more. That's why we like to start with minimum $50 a day, nothing lower than that. And then at least, $100 a day if you're going for call schedule, or we're selling a, $2,000 program, for instance, through a webinar funnel, an evergreen webinar funnel. So, now that we have that set up, you want to talk about the next step. So we talk about account structure. You want it to be really consolidated. Now, next step is really about your creatives. Now, one that we used to happen is that people will obsess a lot about their targeting, and have in the past, people will have 15 different ad set with different audience, and they will test which one will convert the best. But things have changed so much now. The focus is really around creative and how fast you can produce creative with compelling angle. The idea here is really to look at your offer, your market, and think how are some of the pain points, what are the frustration, what keeps them awake at night, what are some of the things that they've done in the past that they haven't forgiven themselves yet, what are some of the mistakes that they've made that keeps them stuck and kind of that kind of stops them from investing again, right? What are some of those mistakes? Where have they been let down by a competition? What are some of the things that they are ashamed of? And what are some of the desire, the goals, the dream? So having all of those things in place and really understanding exactly who you are speaking to. That's why when we work with clients, we start by really having a deeper dive into understanding exactly who the target audience is, not just the demographic, not even the psychographic, but really what keep those guys awake at night, right? And how, because all of those elements is really what allow us to then go back and come up with different messaging angle, because that's what you want to have to win with Meta in 2025, in 2026 and beyond. You need to be able to speak to your target market different pain points. You need to be able to articulate your USP, what makes you unique, what makes your offer the best, tapping into different core desire of your marketplace. creative diversity, having different messaging angle is really how you win. So one campaign, you have one ad set, and then the creative is really what you want to play full out, And what we like to do again is once you upload those assets, you really want to let the machine work. So we like once we've launch a company, we like to wait for anywhere from 5 to 7 days to see what happens. Typically, we can start seeing traction after 48 hours, or even 24 hours, depending on the campaign, depending on what we are trying to achieve. But again, the goal, if you've been listening to the podcast, I always talk about stability before taking any decision. So stability can only be perceived or understood through time, right? And so even if we start getting result after 48 hours, we are still going to wait until 5 days to see, okay, are we consistent? Are we in a stable season, in a stable place? If that's the case, then we can scale more, we can put more money behind it. Now, typically when you launch a campaign, uh after 5, 7 days, there are a couple of things that are going to happen. This is scenario one, where Facebook is won't spend anything. This is going to be really rare if you have a really good combination of creatives in your batch. If you just launch one or two ads, you can actually have Facebook won't spend anything because you haven't given them something that's compelling enough for your target audience. Just gonna have a sip of water. Perfect. And so that's the first scenario, right? So you launch your campaign, Facebook doesn't spend, that's a red flag. So here you want to change your creative, change your messaging because it's not really hitting. Second scenario is actually Facebook spend a lot. So you have a really high CPA. Again, red flag, you want to change your assets and what you've uploaded is not aligned with what Facebook deem to be attractive or appealing for your target market. Third scenario is the best when you are actually spending on the campaign and Facebook is actually giving you a CPA that's within KPIs. Then you know you have found a winner, and you want to keep on looking at the campaign for a couple more days to see if there's stability. And if that's the case, now you know, okay, I can actually scale this campaign further. I can scale by anywhere from 15 to 30%, like I shared with you in the previous video, in terms of how to scale your Facebook ad campaigns. Something which is paramount when it comes to succeeding with your testing framework in 2026 is really keeping track of what's working and what's not working. Because what happens is you're probably gonna forget as time goes by what worked well and what didn't work as much. So we have a sheet. So we have a sheet for our client where we actually record, angle that worked the best, headline that works the best, hooks, audience pocket, because all of those insights allow us to inform the next step that we take when you're in a season where we are either launching a new offer or we just want to scale more aggressively. So I invite you to really track what was a winner, what was a loser, why did it lose. So because again, what we like to do is we like to have tests twice a week, so every 3 days. We like to test something in the ad account, whether that's a creative, an ad copy, an audience pocket. And as we conduct those tests on a weekly basis, we like to record, okay, why did it work? Why was that? Why didn't it work? Why did we do to kind of overcome that, so that we actually informed from our hypothesis. And when you actually do that and you have that research or those insights, it really allows you to have a backlog of things that you shouldn't do and of things that work the best. Because typically when most advertisers are stuck when it comes to scaling their campaigns, because they have no clue what to look at. They have no record of, okay, why worked in the past, what worked in the past, and why did it work? What have we tried that didn't work? They just think, oh, Facebook ad don't work, or we were doing so well, but now we are not having any result anymore. And they are really unable to pinpoint why that's the case. And that's typically because I haven't taken the time to actually track progress and understand what drove success or what drove failure. So I highly invite you to think through those lenses and think like a researcher. And the idea is, okay, I have an hypothesis. I'm gonna launch the hypothesis in the market and see how the market responds. And my only goal is to understand the reaction of the market and then adjust my hypothesis accordingly. I'm not attached to what I produce. And again, I'm not attached to the video which I've made. I'm not attached to the copy that I've written. My only goal is actually to drive results and get people to purchase. As soon as that's achieved, I'm doing amazing. I'm doing fine, right? So work, learn why it work, and it's going to allow you to just scale a whole lot faster. Something which I want to leave you with is remember that complexity is the enemy of the execution. The simpler your campaign, the easier it is to understand, com- the more comfortable and the more confident you're gonna feel as you manage your campaign, as you scale your ad budget, as you to go through your testing framework. So huge it's not about doing more, it's about doing less and being more strategic. It's about understanding what are some of the key variables that are going to drive the best success. And not just trying to play with everything and anything. What are the biggest things which I can change, that I can adjust to have the highest leverage in terms of results, instead of spending time and spending hours in your ads manager and opening it every single hour thinking what's happening. Think through your entire customer journey. Think through, okay, what's happening in the front end, what's happening with the emails. Do we have SMS? How is our targeting structured? All of those things are going to play massive role and are going to affect ultimately the performance of your ads. So that's what I wanted to share with you. If you are spending 10K or more and your ad account looks like, a mess, and you just feel like, okay, we could do so much better. We are in a season where we can use some help to scale, to have better results. Feel free to reach out, schedule a call in the description box. There's gonna be a link to speak with me or the team. We're gonna come in, have an audit of what you're currently doing, and give you a roadmap in terms of how to and give you a roadmap on how to get even better results, right? So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope this episode was valuable to you. If there's any question or suggestion for the next episode, let me know in the comment section below.